Welcome back. How are you guys doing tonight? Welcome to the live stream with Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy. Extremely excited to talk to you guys tonight about the subject matter around executive coaching. I have a very, very special guest, and we're going to be talking to him tonight, and his name is Rhue. He is a executive coach of executive coaches. Get that. Please get that. Understand that we're going to talk a little bit about what an executive coach is. But when you think about athletes, you think about different professions, they all have a coach. And so I have seen him grow in his business, but more importantly, I confide in him as an executive coach. So we're going to be talking to him a little bit more. But before we get into that, I want to talk about some upcoming shows that we have. And that is going to be Lessons Learned from Intern to Professional. And that is going to be next week. Is it next week? Yeah, next week with Anita Gallinino. Oh my gosh, Anita, I hope you're not watching this. I just messed up your last name. And we've worked together for so long, and all I know is Anita. So I'm so excited to have her on the show. She is a recruiting specialist, but we're going to be talking about some lessons that professionals can learn from interns and an internship. There's so many things that when you think about that relationship as an intern and what they do for their first couple of weeks as an intern and the lessons that they learn can cross over to you as a professional as well. And then we are going to talk with Tawana Taylor, and that is going to be on August 25th. And we're going to talk about the art of getting things done. So Tawana is also a coach, and she has this framework around, and it's called Done. And we are going to walk through that framework and help you understand how to get things done in your life, in your career, professionally, and personally as well. So I'm excited to talk to her about that. And then the other thing that we have going on, as you guys will know, in the Facebook group, it is our community takeover, where we actually just have a conversation with anybody that's in the community. We do it on Friday evenings. And if you want to come on and just talk about where you currently are in your profession, this is just an opportunity for you and I to have one-on-one, but also for the community to be involved in the process as well. They provide tips and ideas and things that we probably haven't thought about as we're discussing certain things that are transpiring in your life. And so make sure if you want to be part of the community takeover, just send me a DM or leave a comment or something just to let me know. We have a couple people already kind of lined up for the community takeover, so we're pretty excited about that as well. And if you're looking at this on YouTube, we ask that you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. As well, make sure you hit that alert button so that you can get all of our videos and everything in a timely fashion as well. You know, LinkedIn. If you're looking at this on LinkedIn, we ask that you go ahead, and if you want to be invited into our membership group, you can go ahead and look at that. Worthy Retail U. That is going to be on LinkedIn as well. We actually provide some different content, and we're going to be starting actually on LinkedIn in September. We are going to be starting a lunch and learn, and that's going to be on Wednesdays, and that's going to take place from 11 to 1 o'clock. And we're going to have different speakers on there. We're going to be talking leadership, retail, personal development, and also leadership, and some of the tips and tricks that some of these leaders and guests that I have on the show that are going to talk a little bit about some of the things that has gotten them to where they are right now. All right. If you're on Facebook, go ahead and hit that like button. Also, if you want to be part of our Facebook group, and that is Worthy Retail U Coaching, you can go ahead and click on that link. It's a pretty robust group. We're pretty active. And so if you want to be part of that, go ahead and hit that button or click the invite as well. So executive coaching. It is one of those things that sometimes it almost seems elusive to certain people, or it almost seems set apart. I've been coaching probably for about, I want to say, almost 8 to 10 years. And one of the only reasons that I've actually gotten into it was because I actually received executive coaching myself, and I realized the benefits from it. I was one of those people who felt that executive coaching was for that elite group, was for those people, those individuals that, had the C-suite people. and realized that it wasn't for them. It wasn't just for them. It was for anybody that wanted to take their leadership to the next level, but more importantly, wanted to understand who they are so they can go from where they are to where they want to be. So tonight we're going to be talking about that. Once again, we have tonight Mr. Perry Rhue. I met Perry, I want to say sometime last year as I was starting this journey for myself, really kind of a self-discovery. And we connected via LinkedIn. And I can swear our first conversation probably went almost 2 hours. And it was supposed to just go a half an hour. And then we met week after week after week. And I just felt him planting seeds in my life for my personal development. And I am so thankful that this man has been in my life, and that he's here tonight to kind of share with us a little bit more about himself, but more importantly, the idea and the art and understanding of executive coaching. So without further ado, how you doing, sir? How you doing, Mr. Perry Rhue?
Hey, brother, I'm doing well, doing fantastic. It is great being here with you. I get to play with my brother, and what both of us absolutely love doing.
Yeah, excellent, man. Excellent, man. So tell people a little bit. I put everything, some things in the bio and all this other stuff, but tell them a little bit about what you do and how long you've been doing it for.
Believe it or not, Steve, and I have to pinch myself, I'm celebrating my 27th anniversary in coaching.
That's amazing.
I was introduced to coaching matter of fact, when I was introduced to coaching, I didn't know, business coaching, life coaching, executive coaching, or coaching as we know it, really existed. And coaching was in its embryonic stage, if you will. And then I was going through a what I called it a career crisis. Others said not a career crisis, but a career awareness of, okay, God, what is my script? What am I supposed to be doing? And I would tell you, Steve, as far back as I can remember, I've always been, teaching, mentoring, advising, counseling, and then I was introduced to coaching. And the orientation, the training program that I went through, the first 4 minutes, I knew this is where I was supposed to be
That's right.
doing the
That's
rest of
right.
my life. So
That's right.
so it was in the late 90s where I was part of so this is a condensed version.
No worries.
So I was part of a pioneering group in IBM, introducing coaching as we know it today. And back then, companies like IBM and others thought that coaching was a fad, and one day will go away. And it wasn't until we began to align coaching with business results, where the executives and there was buy-in, and coaching began to gain traction. So I have just been blessed. I would say in IBM, I guess it was like maybe 14 or 15 years
Mm-hmm.
as an internal coach, leadership development, career coaching, executive coaching, and had the wisdom to, during that time, also have my own coaching business on the side, because I knew that if ever I decided to leave IBM, or if IBM invited me to leave, this is what I'd be doing. So my coaching really centers around, leadership development, executive coaching, and we'll talk a little bit more about all of that, because I like what you said, that really coaching is for anyone or everyone who want to really improve,
Mm-hmm.
improve in an area. And that's one of the myths, and we'll probably talk about this. I don't know if it's a myth or stigma or what have you. We used to believe that coaching was only for the C-suite and the elite.
Yes.
And we've seen, how that changed. So Perry, in a nutshell, has always been, and coaching is just a vehicle of coming alongside people and helping them be their ultimate best.
Well, I think and I'm glad you said that, man, because I think I want to go back to that feeling that you talked about when you were you were taking some coaching classes, and you were like, this is it. Like, this is what I feel like I want to be doing for the rest of my life, because I want to kind of go down that path for a little bit, because I want people to understand that there's a difference. I believe, for those individuals who say that they're coaches to those individuals who are coaches, the
Mhm.
people who actually live, breathe, and eat and write as you do, because you are a well written person within the coaching community, right? So you don't just do this lightly. You kind of like you playing yourself down, man. You got how many articles? Yeah, yeah. I want everybody to get this. So let's talk about that a little bit, about like that feeling that you have, and then also what you do, for the coaching community. Because I think, and we'll talk more about demystifying coaches and stuff, but I just want everybody to kind of understand that as well.
Mhm. Yeah, this really goes back to, again, you laughing at me, I know. This career crisis, that I was going through back in 1995. And Steve, it really came, I was in the role that I was in. I was getting promotions like every 2 years or so, pay
Hmm.
increases, recognition, and I wasn't fulfilled. And I was telling my wife, one, I think there's something wrong with me, and two, if I don't do something about this, this is going to negatively affect my performance, and my company,
Hmm.
IBM, will be inviting me out of the door. So it was really some soul searching. And again, to kind of condense this, um, I was doing, Simon Sinek, Start
Hmm.
with Why, before, and I don't know if you Simon Sinek was born back then or what
No,
have you,
right.
but it was really about sitting down, and it was a 6 month journey of really introspection, assessments. I did everything from MBTI to
Oh
whatever,
yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
at the end, just packaged this thing. And like I said, it wasn't any new discovery or surprises. And then that's when I was introduced to coaching, and I'm like, okay, well, yeah, this is it. So one of the things I talk about is doing what you absolutely
Mm.
love. If you're going to spend 8 hours a day, 40 plus hours a week, why not do something that you absolutely love? I had a classmate when I was in high school. We were transitioning from high school to college, and I'll just say his first name, Benny. But Benny always wanted to be a disc jockey or radio announcer, and every time we would see, yeah, Benny, we know, yeah. And it was something that he said that haunted me for a number of years. And he said, you know what? The difference, he said, when I get up, he said, you guys, you get up, you go to work. He said, when I get up, to play. And oh, by the way, I get paid to do it. So
Exactly.
that's where I am, in coaching. And it's really the vehicle, like I said, that lines up with kind of my personal mission statement of helping people become their ultimate best. So like you said, when I'm invited to join you, I always say thank you, because you allow me to do what I absolutely love doing. I was recently, I guess this is my second year now, where I am, I'm on the editorial board of Choice Magazine.
Hmm.
I've written some articles on LinkedIn. Most of them are video. I find that people would watch the videos or listen to the video, because a lot of folks really don't have time, to read.
Right.
Um, this is my 8th year as a adjunct, teacher at Western Seminary,
Hmm.
working with teaching coaching, working with the students and preparing them for their coaching, certification or credentials. I'm working with another major university and launching a coaching pilot program. So and I don't know if we'll talk about this, later on. My business has really evolved to mentor coaching coaches,
Yeah.
helping
Yes.
coaches as it pertains to operating their practice as a business. And then you'll hear a little bit of, maybe we'll talk about rising awareness. But this is, last year, the murder of George Floyd affected many of us, and it did me. And out of that, I've heard a lot of coaches who said, and I'm quoting them, that the topic of conversation about coaching, racism and associated social issues are messy, uncomfortable, with having feelings of inadequacy.
Mm.
And I'm like, well, wait a minute. If we're professionally trained to have and navigate through the messy conversation and what have you, so what's different here?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know. This may be another podcast.
No, one of the things that we get a lot of questions, I think you and I both do, and you probably not so much more because you're at a different level, right? But we often get the question around what is executive coaching, right?
Hmm.
What's the difference between executive coaching, life coaching, business coaching? There's so many, a diet coach. There are diet coaches. I looked it up. I have no clue I mean, I guess I get it, right?
Yeah,
But there's
yeah,
so many, there's so much, right? And I think
yeah.
I want to reduce that confusion with people, because I think if we can do that, and distill it to its true meaning. And I know you and we talk a lot about what words, the meaning of words as well. Can you help kind of distill some of that noise?
Yeah. Believe it or not, 27 years later, there's still conversation about, okay, what is coaching? What does coaching mean? What is a coach? So first, before I go into executive coaching and what is an executive coach, I want to go back, and you and I talked about this, the origin of the word coach as it pertains to what we're doing and this profession. And I won't mess the city or the village name up in my understanding, the Ukraine. But the word coach originated in this village, and in this village, they made, and I think this was, gosh, maybe 1500s or 1600s, or what have you. They built carriages,
Mm-hmm.
and they call these wheel transporters of people and things. They call it a coach. So basically, a coach, what my definition, what I like to think of as coach is a transportation resource, or vehicle that transport people or products or things from one location to another.
Yeah.
So just putting it in this context here, as a coach, what we're doing is that we're helping, or we're transporting people and individuals from where they are to where they want to be, and the work in between that we're doing is what we call coaching. And coaching is more of a, really, it is a Socratic method of critical thinking,
Mm, mm,
where what we're doing as coaches is that rather than having the answer, we have the question.
yes. Yes.
So with that and helping people, and it's really about helping people improve, helping people become better, because especially in company in the business world, coaching still has the stigma,
Hmm.
if you will, that coaching is for people who are broken and need fixing,
Right.
or this is, and hopefully no one on the call name is Sylvester. I try to pick a name that probably nobody
I think you're pretty
has.
safe with that. I think you're safe with
Yeah,
that.
okay. But this is kind of like the last ditch effort of helping Sylvester stay in the company or what have you. So we're going to hire a coach. So there's some stigma there, or it's punitive,
Yes.
if you will. And so these are the stereotypes and myths that we have to debunk, if you will. Now, so coaching, and I want to go back to something that you said earlier. And I always say this: any athlete, whether a serious amateur or professional, wouldn't be caught dead without a coach. Can you imagine,
Mm.
Simone Biles,
Yeah.
without a coach?
Exactly.
So one of the things is that, especially those in like businesses and corporations and what have you, one of the things I ask them to do is have this business athlete mindset, if you will. So we have the basic definition of coaching and what a coach does. And so executive coaching is really it's really contextual. Executive coach, whether you have the title of an executive, if you're aspiring to be an executive, is mostly those in leadership
Hmm.
and emerging leaders, if you will, and their focus typically is what I would say: leadership development, professional development, um, emotional intelligence, social
Yeah.
intelligence, conversational intelligence. Those blind spots, because the higher up you go into leadership and management, the less people will tell you,
Say, come
you
on,
know,
see, people.
that.
Hold up, we gotta stop there because I hope you guys heard that I didn't couch him. I didn't coach him to say that. I did not coach him to say that. That is one of the things I say all the time. The higher you go, the less feedback you receive.
Yeah.
And it is incumbent upon you to take the necessary actions. I got excited, as you can tell. Um, because man, you just hit that with me, man, because that is so true. The higher you go, the less feedback you receive. But here's the one thing I didn't mean to cut you off on that because
No, go
I did
ahead.
want to go
We're
back and
just
talk
talking.
about. I do want to talk about this one point. So you're telling me a coach doesn't give the coachee the answers because
All right. So let me let me share something here, because one of the things is that, um, and I've always been this way. I talk about things that your coaching training program did not tell you,
tell
and
it.
what
Come
many
on,
coaches won't talk about publicly. Okay.
I gotta get the one-on-one. I gotta get your solo for this one.
Okay. All right. So let me say this, and what about coaching and the training and the profession is that, and I applaud the founders, Thomas Leonard and these guys who's started this as a profession 20 some years ago, and making the distinction between a coach and an advisor, a counselor, and so on. The adage pretty much is that the coach has all the questions and the client has all the answers,
Mm,
and I don't necessarily agree with that.
agreed.
I think the coach, so for me, and this is just the way how I coach, is that what does my client need in the moment under
Yeah.
the umbrella of coaching?
Yeah.
So there are times. So basically, and I tell my clients, so I'll say to you, Steve, give me some options, tell me some things that you could do differently, and you're at now number 4,
Hmm.
and I say, all right, give me one more. I don't have another one. well, if you had another one, what would that be? And well, this time you're ready to choke me.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
So what I'm doing is I'm exhausting your ideas and your thoughts and and your solutions. And then what I would do is I would share with your permission either my thoughts or my ideas, and then I'll flip it back to you and say, okay, Steve, I shared my thoughts. How do you envision that working for you or not? And you may say, oh, absolutely, and this is the way it will, or absolutely not, no way, but, and I'm going after the but.
Correct,
you
correct,
know
correct.
so in that moment I could be, you know again, it's I could be briefly, a teacher, because some of the things that I do in coaching, I hear other coaches, they don't, like, I will send you like a TED talk.
Hmm. Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
send you a video or what have you, but resources that will help you, or is based on our conversation. And some coaches say, "Well, you do? I don't do that."
Oh no. Mm.
And I'm like, no. So yeah. So the thing is here
Yeah, we
is
had that
that
conversation. We had that conversation. I didn't mean to cut you off, but we had
yeah.
that conversation a while ago around,
Hmm.
you know, we get our best ideas a lot of times in the shower or while we're about to fall
Hmm.
asleep. And you were
Hmm.
talking to me about, you had the little pad next to your bed,
Mm.
and you're like, "Hey, ooh, this may be a great idea for Steve." Or there it is. See,
Well, now it's got a smartphone in my
yeah.
smartphone now, but back in the day.
Yeah, and I think this goes into the point around executive coaching in the context of that. Let's just say it's an hour, right? We're gonna go to
Mhm.
some other things, but now I want to talk about this one too. But in that context of an hour, everyone thinks a lot of times that that's it. When I'm meeting with the coach for that hour, that is all encompassing. Everything
Mhm.
that this coach is talking to me about is within this hour. They don't see a lot of the other work that coaches do. And so when they
Mhm.
start talking about coaching fees and different things like that, they're like, "Oh, well, no, well, it's 150 an hour or whatever, 200 an hour, right?" Well, no, it's not just that hour. It's all the
Mhm.
legwork and different things that we've done up front to actually go into
Mhm.
this session and be able to create a whole bunch of different questions based on who you are, and ideally, kind of come to some, not resolution, because I don't like that word resolution right now from a coaching
Mhm.
standpoint. I think there's a journey that they're on, and we're trying to help them along that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things here is, and it's something that you said earlier, and for those who either, looking for a coach or seeking a coach, I always advise that you interview a coach,
Yes.
your coaches. And one of the things, and you said this earlier, and I always say or state this during the interviewing process: ask that coach if they have a coach,
Hmm.
because I believe every coach should have a coach. I have a coach. I have sometimes two coaches going on at the same time. But that's a biggie for me. The other thing, as you were sharing, is that, because unfortunately there are a number of folks who are doing this for the money
Mm.
rather than for the love of helping people or coming alongside people and helping them become their ultimate best. Now, this is our livelihood, and this is how we pay our bills and take care of our families, and also the things and that we have to pay for to operate as a business. But beware of those that, because just beware of those who are, one day, they were, I don't know, they were in one profession or what have you, and all of a sudden they're a coach.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
believe that they should be, have, professionally trained. The International Coaching Federation is one of the bodies, if you will, self-regulating bodies, if you will, that have provided credentialing or accreditation to coaching training programs and what have you. But one of the things that's big for me is that person professionally
Yeah.
trained, to do this, and they have a love and a heart and a passion, for this. Because I have some clients who said, how can you put a price on, or how can they put a price on what they're receiving beyond the 60-minute or 30-minute?
You that your stick to itiveness for to do that, man. You know, one of the things that when people think about coaching, I think they want the idea also sometimes is that a lot of people want an immediate like answer or resolution. I'm just going to go back to that
Mhm.
word for their issues. And I think almost it's I know and because you've been doing it for a while is that a lot of times it's unrealistic in that very
Mhm.
first session that you're going to come to any measure of resolution. What is some of the things that you have seen throughout your career? And you talk about some of the audience that we focus in on, like retail leaders, the leadership development, things like that. What are some of the things that one or two of the things that you have seen some of the leaders like really struggle with that they need to get their arms wrapped around where they currently are before they kind of move up to that next level?
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think number one is, and we went back to this, was emotional
Mm,
intelligence,
mm,
being self-aware as it pertains to, the impact as a leader, um, and as a colleague and employee, the impact that you're making on others. Like I said, this thing about, I had a mentor who said to me once, the worst thing that he could do to another human being is to tell that person that I'm sorry, the worst thing that they could do to that person is not tell them that they have spinach in their teeth. And I am more visual than that, and I say broccoli. Okay. But it's just been, I think, it's only been since the mid 90s, I think, where we see a lot of it now, but the distinction between a leader and a manager.
mm, mm,
That's something that's kind of new, if you will.
hmm.
With this ever-changing, workforce, where we have, a number of generations at
Yeah.
at work at the same time, and you're working with them or leading them. um, Definitely emotional, social, and conversational intelligence.
Hmm.
The second thing is, I think what I'm seeing is the shift from what I would say pre 2000, this ego centric
Mm,
type of leadership, to more of an eco centric type leadership
mm.
where, it's more about teams.
Yes. Yes.
So, and before 2000, what have you, it was the one on one individual, coaching, and it was focused on that individual. Eco centric is now focusing on that client or that leader, that leader's employees, if you will. But it's kind of like a ripple effect.
Yes.
It's the leader, it's the leader's people, it's the department, it's the company, the organization or the company, and even goes out into, like, one of the things I see that you're doing, out into the community,
Yeah.
if you will. So it's more of that. It's more of leaders as to how do you leverage, what I like to say, relationships. I hate the
Mm.
word
Yeah.
network, but having a community of people that you're working on and leveraging, and it's kind of like an organic mastermind group,
Yeah.
if
Right.
you will, as it pertains to self-awareness, improvement, making an impact or difference, not only in the world but also within your company or in your organization.
Yeah. How
Hmm.
one of the things that came up when you were talking about the ego versus
Hmm.
the eco, right?
Hmm.
A large portion of that has to deal with communication and the
Yes.
leader's ability or inability sometimes to communicate, because when you are the ego leader, a lot of times it's just what you say and that's it,
Hmm.
and that's what and people do based off of what you say, because that's the mindset. But when you move from
Hmm.
this move when you move to eco, if you will, more team oriented, I think the
Hmm.
communication has to change. What are some of the communication gaps that you've seen in certain leaders that people need to identify based on, like, the idea of self-awareness, and then also in
Hmm.
the context of leading teams and being an eco leader instead of an ego leader? I'm stealing that, right?
Yeah.
I'm just letting you know. I
Yeah.
already wrote that down. That's a podcast episode for me right now. So I'm just letting
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. One of the things is that, and again, this was in the early '90s, when I was in IBM, and our first external CEO, or a CEO from a non-IBM, was Lou Gerstner.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And Lou
Yep.
Gerstner was a lot of people don't realize this or even know this, I think, and even those who are current or former IBMers. Lou Gerstner introduced coaching in IBM as we know it today.
Mm.
The book that was mandatory reading for from the C-suite to the first line manager, and I think it's the 25th edition. It's called Coaching for Performance
Mm.
by Sir John Whitmore. But one of the things that Lou Gerstner said was that you cannot manage people.
Mm. Mm.
You can manage projects, you can manage spreadsheets and what have you, but you lead people.
Mm.
So as it pertains to, like, your question, is that's human things that used to be called soft skills,
Yes.
are now the hard skills. you know, it's those things about what we say, the human touch, empathy, listening to connect, these type of things. Again, just look up, what makes up emotional, social intelligence and conversational intelligence.
Hmm. Hmm.
Active listening,
Yeah.
and even integrating a coaching leadership style, within your coaching, because oftentimes what happens is, if you're a CEO, you could be a pastor or whomever, it's just that critical thinking. We need more, critical thinking, and again, that Socratic method of critical thinking, or is the approach.
Yeah. And when I went to grad school, there was a whole bunch of things
Mm,
that I learned in grad school, but my biggest takeaway honestly was critical
mm,
thinking. It
mm-hmm,
was it was truly, and I
mm-hmm,
continue to leverage it to this day of
mm-hmm,
asking why. And I think when and I use that mentality too from a coaching standpoint, in asking why as well, with clients, like,
mm-hmm,
why, well, Steve, I'm struggling with this. Well, why? I don't make it that kind of arbitrary, but the context of the questions are almost in that why format,
mm-hmm,
because I think if we're asking that, then we kind of we should get to some level of deeper understanding to why they may be struggling with this. And I think a lot of times a lot of times people don't want to um, talk about something for the fear of embarrassment or the fear
Hmm.
of like, I'm alone in this and no one else is thinking like this or feels this way. How do you as a coach help somebody understand that they are not alone, that, the issues that you are probably dealing with, your boss may be dealing with, your peer may be dealing with, but you had the gumption to come here and talk to me and kind of work through that, because I think that's part of the mystery, if you will, sometimes of people not going to see a coach because they don't know what's going to happen behind the closed door. You know, am I gonna come out crying? Am I gonna come out like, with my thumb, with my thumb in my mouth? Because, and I tell people this all the time, coaching isn't therapy. It's not therapy, it's
Right,
not
right.
counseling. But yeah, sometimes, you may regress a little bit because, but you do it
Yeah,
on your own.
yeah. I'm laughing at a couple of things because, uh, any and everything that we experience is not uncommon to mankind.
No. Mm-mm.
We've all experienced this, and I find this not being stereotypical, but I find this more with women than men,
Mm.
and that is women will ask for help.
Yes.
Now that's wisdom.
Yes. Yes.
That's wisdom.
Yes.
And men, and I don't know, this part of, when we were growing up or what have you, boys don't cry, men don't ask for help, and they don't ask for directions. you know. So I mean, so to answer your question, and this kind of goes back to, what is a coach? And one of the things that I share, and this won't fit on any business card, where I am your trusted advisor,
Hmm. Mm.
your confidant, um, in a confidential setting where you're not negatively judged, um, and it's a psychological safe place. That's part of,
Mm. That's
as
good.
this
That's
is where
good.
I go
That's
back to
good.
the professional training.
That's good.
Okay, so establishing that trust, that intimacy, because I said coaching is the only profession that I know that I've been involved in where people begin to tell you things that they haven't even told God yet, if that if that was possible.
Yeah,
So
true.
you're earning,
Mm.
your clients' trust, and this is where they get to be vulnerable. This is where they get to, hey, I'm embarrassed, or whatever it may be. And again, like you said, it's not therapy. So part of it is that not necessarily the why, but it's the what behind, you being stuck, or this area where, you want to improve, or where you currently are, and where you want to be. And one of the things that, and again, beware of this, because I'm seeing something that's kind of creeping into coaching that I don't like. I don't
Mm.
know if it's some of the training out there, or there's just some coaches, because this is something else. Your coach must be courageous. You're
Mm.
not hiring me to tell you what you want to hear, because the
Mm.
reason you're hiring me is because you're tired of people telling you what you want to hear.
Yes.
And you want to make a change, if you will, and you're willing to invest time and money in this to help, with that change. So a coach will always see, here's the level of coaching. My mentor told me years ago, if you're not coaching on the edge of being fired by your client, then you're
Mm.
not coaching.
Mm. Mm,
Okay. So all I'm doing is I'm sharing what I'm hearing. I'm sharing what I am observing, and you have to validate, what I'm seeing and what I'm
yeah.
hearing.
Right.
And the thing that I'm talking about is that I don't like what I'm seeing is that in my coaching and the way how we were trained and what have you is you always walk away with an action plan
Mm,
based on that conversation, what you
right.
want to work on and what you want to accomplish. What is your action plan? What is your commitment to that plan? Your plan of execution, along with a method of accountability.
Mm,
And what I'm hearing in some places where after a coaching engagement, I'm hearing clients say, "Oh, that was a great conversation, and I feel so much better."
mm,
So going back to what you said earlier, the changes are going to happen over a period of time. The heavy lifting is the client, but it's those consistent right behaviors
right.
that they're doing, if you will, to bring about that change or that improvement.
One of the words that just popped in my head when as you were speaking about this, the conversations that people are
Mhm.
the conversations I felt better,
Mhm.
is the word ownership.
Yes.
So when you are coaching someone, I
Mhm.
and I think you agree with this, is that there has to be some measure of ownership by the um by the coachee for
Mhm.
for their journey, and
Mhm.
and for that action plan that they actually need to do. I think the tendency sometimes is that some coaches, and to your point earlier around what you've been hearing, is that I think they don't like being on the edge of being fired, because
Right.
I need to make people happy so that I can get more
Yeah.
clients. And
Right.
and I think that's where we end up leaning towards telling people what they want to hear, instead of telling them, hey, no, this is not, I mean, you're not going to say it that way, but like, no, this is not what you want to hear. Or you haven't done the work yet, right? You haven't even looked at the
Mhm.
first action plan that we've talked about, and you want me to give you the solution. But I firmly believe that what's missing sometimes,
Mhm.
is that ownership piece. What are your thoughts about
Yeah.
that?
Oh, I strongly agree with what you're saying, because if you're doing anything less than that as a coach, one is unethical.
Mm,
Two is a disservice to the client. And three, I would say, any coach that's doing that, they need to quit.
yeah,
You know. So here's the thing. In my 26 or 27 years of coaching, I have never been fired by a client, but I have fired three clients
yeah, yeah,
because they didn't take ownership.
right,
They didn't do the work. So I didn't refund them the used portion of our coaching sessions,
no,
but I said from here on, here's let me write you a check for the remainder of your sessions.
yeah, yeah,
And if you want to come back or what have you, if you're ready, because you're so right, Steve. It's when a person is this may sound crazy. No one really wants a coach.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah. Come on,
nobody
man.
wants a coach. No one wants a fitness trainer. No one wants, but you're at that point
Yes,
where you're saying, I've
yes,
talked to everybody, I've tried this, I've done this, I'm tired, or what have you. I'm going to make the investment. And we as coaches,
hmm,
we need to honor that and understand that where this person is that, and I'm not saying they're at the end of their rope,
right,
but they're tired of being tired of, where they are. And they're coming us for our assistance and help. So it's ownership, is owning it. And the second thing is accountability.
yeah, yeah.
And that is
Oh,
something as a coach, personally, I don't do. There are some coaches who act also as the client's accountability partner. I don't
mm,
do that. I don't
yeah,
take that on. One is extra work. And there's something strange years ago that
mm,
happened to me at least, well, two times. And, And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to prove this a third time.
Right.
I found some clients are less accountable to their plan of execution when when the coach is the accountability partner. It's kind of
Hmm.
like the dog ate my homework,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
kind of like,
Right.
but when they're serious, because they take a long, hard, you can see they're thinking about this. Steve, who would be a great accountability partner,
Right. Right.
for you.
Right.
And when they make that choice, and then I take them through the next step. Okay, so who's your partner? What are the roles and responsibilities? What does all of this? So I'm helping them plan that, or create that accountability, engagement, or I should say relationship.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're okay, you struck a nerve, but
No, I
but I
know.
mean, but that's
I
what it's
know.
about, man.
Yeah, no, it's the truth. It's the truth. I think the other question that people tend to ask, and they won't say it out loud, is how did I get here? Right?
Hmm.
You were talking about, like, no one needs a coach, right? From either a weight loss standpoint, business
Hmm.
standpoint, even like from a leadership standpoint. A lot of times, like, how did I get here to this point?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
how do I then the next question a lot of times is, how do I get myself out of this situation? Right? How do I
Hmm.
get myself, how do I, the old saying, pull yourself up by the bootstraps and just dig in and no work and work harder, dig deeper. None of that stuff works, because all you're doing is digging yourself, you're digging yourself deeper.
Hmm.
I got my two canned questions that I'm going to ask you at the end
Hmm.
here, but
Okay.
I wanted to end this portion of the discussion with, what is the silver lining, if you will. I hate to use that word, but what is
Hmm.
that, ideal situation? Somebody who wants to get a coach, they want to go through that process. What is the outcome, right? What is the outcome, and what is that person? How does that person look, feel, think about themselves as a result of getting some really solid,
Hmm.
trained coaching that
Hmm.
is not going to, spoon feed them what they want to hear, but give them and ask them questions that are really going to dig deep. And then they've gone through that process and they've come out on the other side. What are some traits or some of the things, or
Hmm.
you can even use a client with, you can withhold the name if you want.
Right.
Because
Right.
I want people to understand what that looks like.
Yeah. Well, there are two questions I ask, one for the coaching engagement or relationship, and then for every session or conversation, I ask this question, and that is, what do you want to work on? And what do you want to accomplish by the end of our time together? So, you have an idea of, what you want. Like you said, how did I get here? Some of it is that you have the answer, you have the solution, but you haven't had or don't have a relationship where you can have this type of level of conversation and critical thinking and authentic conversation about um, some of the ideas or solutions, or what's preventing you, or or what's stopping you from doing what you know that you should do, or want to do. The other thing also is this, and I tell my clients, and I have to be careful here, and I tell them this: I want more for you than you want for yourself right now.
Mm,
I visualize, I see that thing that they're struggling with and they want to overcome. Some of it, how they got here, was blind spots,
yes.
and no one told them about the
Yes.
blind spots, or their or what they're doing. um for example, if the manager or someone brings this to this person's attention, what does that person say? Oh, well, I didn't know. And everybody
Yeah.
knows
Yes.
but you. And again, they did. So the kind of the silver lining is this, and there's nothing magical in a sense, about this. It's man, you can just hunker down, and it's a deep dive. I tell my clients, this is all about you, and you be as selfish as you want to be and guilt free.
Mm,
So
mm,
that's how I am working with you, and what your and whatever that goal is, or what you want to accomplish, the work in between. There are some things that we're going to have to do, either a new awareness, a mind shift or change. But what are these things that we're doing, or you're doing actually, that you're putting action around, along with those consistent behaviors to bring about that change.
yeah, that's good, man. That's good
Mhm.
stuff. That's good stuff. So my two canned questions that I that I
Mhm.
that I ask, one is, what's something that you've changed your mind about recently?
That's a hard question. I was thinking, I don't know if it's a change of mind, or more so an evolution.
Mm,
And this is what I was sharing with you at the beginning, and before. Um, Again, I'm still doing leadership development, executive coaching, and all of that. And then and my business and my work is kind of have evolved to, I'm still doing that, but I'm working now with a mentor coaching coaches. I'm working with coaches who and helping them operate their practice as a business,
yeah.
because that's one of the things in the 20 some odd years of coaching that I see that's missing. And that is that there are a lot of training about how to be a coach and how to coach, and very little to no training on how to run a business.
Mm,
And then so it's still working, coming alongside people to become their ultimate best. And now, along with working with coaches, I'm still focusing on coaches as well as leaders. Last year was a, and I may be downplaying this. It
mm,
was an interesting year.
yeah,
you
yeah. Just a
know,
little bit.
it
Just a little bit.
yeah, it started, with COVID, where I like to say, God put the whole earth on lockdown. And then following that, we had, the murder of George Floyd that affected me deeply. And I'll just be very quick about this.
Yeah,
And
of
this is what I'm
course.
talking about, the evolution. Um, right after the murder of George Floyd, a lot of companies and organizations, and even within coaching, came out with their statement,
Yeah,
of condemnation, and what have you, whether they were sincere or they thought this was the right right thing to do, or what have you. And I'm sitting on a number of video conference calls, and coaching gatherings, and,
yeah,
and and the
yeah.
one thing I kept hearing consistently was coaches saying, and I always say this, and I quote, that the topic in conversation or coaching on racism
Mm,
and associated social issues, that it's messy and uncomfortable, with feelings of inadequacy.
mm,
And I'm silently sitting here, not from a judgmental place, but it's like, well, wait a minute. As professionally trained coaches, we are trained to navigate through the messy and uncomfortable conversations,
agreed.
if you will. And then what is preventing or stopping coaches from shifting or transferring that skill and that competency to a conversation about racism and what have you? So, long story short, I was just sharing my thoughts. First, I was praying about this. Second, because my question, okay, what is my special assignment during this season beyond mere talk? Because
Right.
there's been talking all along. And then as I'm sharing this with other coaches, one that I highly respect said, you need to you need to create a summit for
Yeah.
coaches, and helping them with the skill set of navigating the messy, conversations, and what have you. So, kind of, again, a long story short, I created, and this, I like to call it a movement,
Yeah.
because it's not a training program. It is something that's not here today and gone tomorrow. but it's really a movement on coming alongside coaches and equipping them with that skill set to navigate through these conversations so they can, and also helping them become the social change agents,
Yeah.
in, government, institutions and what have you, where we already are,
Right.
where we can make that change or that difference, if you will, in what I like to say, healing, because this is my specific piece of the pie,
Hmm.
and that is healing the human race,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
from racism, if you will.
Agreed, man.
Hmm.
I got to go down that hole
Hmm.
too, if you will, with the
Hmm.
idea about coaches now. I had a situation the other day, and we were
Hmm.
talking to some people. We were interviewing some people, and one of the questions that we posed was around diversity and inclusion, and it
Hmm.
was around, based off of everything that happened last year, what has changed in your leadership, now, and how are you doing things differently, with your team, whether it's diverse or not? What are you doing differently? And we had a couple of candidates that did a great job, and probably a couple of candidates that didn't do a great job. And what I noticed was that there was that, to your point, there was this uneasiness about
Hmm.
addressing that, because I think a lot of times they felt that their perspective was going to be, diametrically opposed to everyone else's, and
Hmm.
yada yada yada, instead of just bringing it to the forefront and having it and discussing it. So I think there is still a lot of that. There's still a lot of that in the workplace. There's still a lot of that corporate America. People are apprehensive to talk about it. And I think as a coach, sometimes, yes, we may not feel that race relations or diversity and inclusion or whatever it is may be part of our job description. But I think it's not so much about the job description, it's about the individual, helping them cope
Hmm.
and providing them tools, or they can help provide themselves with tools from a communication standpoint, and also empathy, right? I'm not
Hmm.
asking you to be black. I'm not asking you to do any of that. I'm just asking you to empathize a little bit about the situation and put yourself in someone else's shoes for a period of time.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I still think people find that, even not, uh, still, they find that difficult just to even think about,
Hmm.
that process of being empathetic around race relations.
Yeah, and this is what and I know we're running out of time,
Yeah,
and
no
so
worries.
so what I'm doing, and those like-minded, like-spirited coaches who are currently or have been doing this work. You see, everything begins with the conversation, and there are three levels of conversation. There's transactional, positional, and then transformational, and there's a lot of transactional exchange of information around this, or positional, where I'm advocating my point and I'm trying to convince you or what have you, and then there's transformational, as to where we're just being curious and we're discovering together, and together we're coming to with a solution to make a difference. And then it doesn't stop at transformational. The next step is some form or type of activism, if you will. So this is one of the things that, because what we're doing in this communications piece, and we don't get into critical, race theory and
Right.
anti-racism and any of that, because what's missing is the front piece of setting the ground rules for the conversation.
Correct. Correct.
So when
Correct.
we're setting the conversation, when I talk to, just for example, my white brothers and sisters, and one of the things that, and when we're setting this up, one of the things I say is, you can add one, this is under a shared learning environment, okay? And you can ask any question you want. Give yourself permission to ask any question you want, not think that Perry think is racist, or the question is racist, or you're racist.
Right.
We're
Right.
learning together and giving each other those permissions. And then something else that we're doing, and this wasn't intentional, but it just happened this way. And that is those coaches, those like-minded coaches and spirited coaches. I've been talking to a number of coaches from South Africa
Mm,
on my team, the United Kingdom, Singapore. So it's a cross-pollination
mm,
of shared learning and experiences. The summit that we had April, um, and the focus again is on, because what we're focusing on this year is, as a coach,
mm,
and I use the word healing. Before we can heal others, we ourselves first need to be healed. We need to
mm-hmm.
understand and raise our own awareness as to these terms and what's happening, if you will. So it's more of an introspection,
Right.
if you will. So the feedback, one of the feedback, or several feedback, or I say a number of feedback that on this particular, and I like to use the word criticism,
Mm-hmm.
and that's too strong of a word, but I like it. And this is that, um, because during the breakout sessions and breakout activities that we had, the number one complaint, if you will, was we needed more time.
Mm,
It was too short. And I'm telling my partner and I'm telling others, if one, it tells me that we're doing something right. And then the other thing is that, how many conversations have you been in with total strangers to talk about racism
right.
that
Right.
didn't implode, within 3 minutes, or so. So one of the things, as a proof of concept, that I'm focusing on and we're focusing on, that everything, the road to healing from racism begins with a conversation. Like you said, empathy is listening to each other's stories
Mm-hmm.
and experiences. It's kind of shifting. I've heard where some people say, well, I'm tired of educating people. Go look it up on the internet.
Yeah.
And I said, well, yeah, okay, that's one way of doing it. But what if you had the opportunity to share and teach through your experience, through your lens, which is a lot of what we're doing and what I'm doing, and that natural curiosity, oh, I didn't know.
Right.
For some of your audience,
Yeah.
they've heard and they know what the talk is.
Yeah.
And don't get upset when somebody say, "Well, I never heard of that. What is that? Are you real? Are you serious?"
Yeah.
And don't get upset. Don't get offended. Don't. This is the opportunity
Mm,
to have that conversation, and that's what we're seeing,
yeah.
man. We're seeing transformed lives, and a big part of this
Yeah.
goes back to, in the coaching sessions, of walking away with an action plan. And execution and method of accountability is activism. This is
Yeah.
kind of a social active activist movement, and then I'll end on this. We often read John Lewis's quote.
Mm,
If you see something wrong, something not right, unjust,
yeah.
but what, and he often quoted that, but one of his quotation in that, which is often left out,
Mm,
is he said, when these things happen, he said, you have a moral obligation
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to say something, to do something.
Yeah.
So I use that quote, and because all of us, it was in the late 70s, and here's where I'm going with this. In the late 70s, when George Bush Sr. was talking about voodoo economics, and people were like, what the heck is voodoo economics? And somebody came up with this term or this phrase. It's the economy, stupid.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
So what
Yes.
I'm saying is, without
I remember that.
any
Yes.
disrespect, it's people. It's the people, stupid.
Yeah. That's it. That's
When
it.
we were, at the Chauvin trial, the verdict,
Yeah.
and man, my cell phone is blowing up with texts from coaches, in my community, and again, South Africa and elsewhere, and they're like, man, we don't know how this is going to go. We don't know what's going to happen, and this could go either way. And it made me think about this and realize, and I responded and I said, you know what? Let me tell you, no matter what the verdict is,
Mm,
um, here's what's on trial: the treatment of one human being by another.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's what all of this is about.
yeah,
All of this work, where people are oppressed, people are marginalized. All of this boils down to the simplest core of one person, how one human being treat another, and
yeah,
as coaches, how can we come alongside these people, or come alongside people,
yeah,
if you
yeah.
will, in healing and righting the wrongs, and doing the right thing.
Well, I think, and I'm see, and hopefully everybody understands, because I think that that question or that answer
Mhm,
also speaks to the level of depth that really good coaches go to. It's not just about you sitting in a session with someone
mhm.
and asking a whole bunch of questions. Coaches have to do work on themselves as well,
That's right.
because if they don't do work on themselves first, they won't be in a position to help anybody.
Mhm,
And to your point earlier about interviewing, people interviewing their coach. I think part of that interview process, yes, should they have a coach? But I think you interview them, and maybe ask them, like, what's something that you changed your mind about recently, or what's something that some of your clients have been struggling with that you feel that you haven't been able to address. It could be something
right.
along the lines of around race relations. So, as
Yeah.
a retail leader, I'm people are put in these positions, and I'm actually going to do an episode on this where,
Mhm,
the leader is white, but the majority of the team is black, and then vice versa. Actually myself, I was put in that position where the majority of my team, I've been put in there several times,
mhm,
where the majority of my team is white, and I'm the only black leader within that unit or whatever it may be. And there's something to be said about those situations. And so, as a retail leader, you're going to be placed in a lot of these situations that you may need a coach to help you with and better understand
mhm,
how your coping skills or your self-awareness, right, plays a
mhm,
massive role in how you communicate, connect, empathize, your level of candor that you have,
mhm,
and also your ability to say, "Hey, I don't know.
mhm,
I don't know about that. But can you help me, teach me, to try to get some measure of understanding?" But I really want people to get that around really good coaches, is that they do
mhm,
work on themselves as well. It's not just them
mhm.
doing work on you, but they're doing work on themselves as well.
And one thing I want to add, and you know me, I'm always, researching, and I don't know a great deal about this. You know more, and your audience know more about
Yeah.
this. So when you talked about earlier about executive coaching or business coaching and so on, and what are some of the maybe the topics that they would focus on, and it could be about them, it could be about
Yeah.
their business or what have you. And I can send you a link to this. So I just ripped this off and it talked about the major challenges in the retail industry.
Oh,
Okay, and here's the order. Number one, and these can be possibly coaching topics. Undergoing the new normal.
yes.
I like new.
Yeah,
The
new, yeah,
millennials say
yeah.
the new. I hate. Okay, but anyway, I digress. Undergoing the new normal protocol to prevent COVID-19 transmission,
Mhm, mhm.
keeping up with ever changing customer
Oh,
expectations, maintaining customer loyalty versus satisfaction.
that's right. That's
Here
it.
you go. You talked about this. Managing internal communication,
Oh,
retaining and engaging employees, a high stakes global game of digital disruption,
yes.
and finding the best technology solutions for the retail industry.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
So,
Yes.
and every industry has its struggles and its challenges. And this is where, having a coach, either, one-on-one individual coach, a team coach,
Yeah, yeah.
a group coach,
Yes.
coaching can help in those areas.
Absolutely, man.
Hmm.
So this last big question
Hmm.
is around this idea about. So I was reading this book, and it's called Essentialism, and
Hmm.
one of the stories in his book was about he was a rugby coach, I believe,
Hmm.
and his team won like 850 some odd matches or games,
Hmm.
and he only
Hmm.
lost 10.
Hmm.
And so the sports reporter and some other people asking the secret to his success, he said, well, we just focus on win. And they were like, well, of course you do. You just want to focus on win. He said, no, win for
Hmm.
us is what's important now. So
Hmm.
every player that gets on that field is focused in on what's important now. They're not focused on any distractions. They're not thinking about their girlfriends or the family in the audience. They're not thinking about the grades. They're focused in on what's important now. And when we do that, they actually collectively, move together. So I started thinking about that in the context of leaders. We move from, especially coaches, right? You move from client to client sometimes, and sometimes we move from promotion to promotion, career to career, project to project, but we don't take that time to actually pause, where
Hmm.
COVID-19 has forced us to pause and really take stock, if you will, and kind of ask that question, like what's important now? So what's important now to Perry?
Yeah. um, and this may surprise some because we've been talking. You can tell how much I love what I do.
Yeah.
What's important now is my health, my family, my work. Um, in that order. Um, because I love what I do. I guess because now I'm maturing, I can say getting older, but I have to take care of this body. I have to take care of this temple so I can continue doing what I'm doing until I'm 85 years old
I know that's
or
right.
90 years old, if you will. And then next is family. I will tell you, in my career, and even before coaching, you asked me what was important, like what you asked,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I would rip it off, God, family, and work.
Right, right.
But the way I was behaving was work was number one,
Mm,
and God and family was somewhere in the back fighting for number two, maybe,
yeah,
you know. But that's the most important thing, it's health and it's family in order for me to do the work that I'm doing.
yeah. Excellent, man.
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Well, man, where can people connect with you? I of course I have all the links and everything
Hmm.
in the description, but where can people connect with you if they're looking for a coach or they're
Yeah.
looking for, just want to know more information that because I said you've written a lot of articles.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of them are specifically towards coaching, but I think
Hmm.
some people may find some value in them as well.
Yeah. Well, LinkedIn and is one, and I've been blessed to be the only Perry Rhue in the LinkedIn awareness is risingawareness.org. My email address is perry.rue at Ekklesia for Coaches. That's EKKLESIA, the number four, coaches.com.
All right.
Did I hit it all?
You got it. You got it. You got it. I think
Okay.
I think we had some issues. Thank you, Alec. Alec. One, he said,
Mhm.
said great conversation.
Mhm.
Thank you, Perry and Steve. And then also my sound was off as I was going from um what was it called? Scene to scene. So hopefully,
Mhm.
I think we got it all sorted now. Let me just make
Okay.
sure. Yeah, I think it's all
Yeah.
sorted. Yeah, that's all. That's good to go. That's good to go. Well,
Mhm.
sir, stay behind in the green room.
Okay.
As I want to chat some more up, but I truly,
Absolutely.
truly appreciate you coming and hanging out, man, and providing some
Oh,
really good
my
insight
pleasure.
with
My
everybody
pleasure.
around executive coaching and helping them understand the importance of it and what they can do to kind of get after it. So thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
I'll talk to you
Thank
soon.
you.
All
Thank
right.
you, brother.
All
All
right.
right.